Hello again. Welcome back to Asgard, and welcome back to Enigmatica to Expert. So, last episode, we spent a bit of time speed building out this tree. Of course, it's not done yet. Today, though, we are going to take one episode break from the tree and do a bit of speed building elsewhere. That's because this tree has taken a while. And there's something else that I've been wanting to start working on for a while now, and I'd like to get it in place in time, at least, not necessarily finished, because I don't think we're going to do interiors today, because I am expecting this to take a bit of time. But we are going to start building out some housing, because our town so far inside the city has no housing. So I wanted to start building out some of the housing, and it'll kind of start to bring our city to life, start doing some decorating, figure out exactly how we want to run the roadways, not paths, but like the actual roadways and stuff, what kind of material and things that we're going to be using for that, and kind of start getting that together. So we're going to start working on that today and get a dent put in it so that it's there for the world upload after the next episode. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a bit of speed building. I think what we're going to do is we're going to build out the houses, and then we're going to decorate them all at once. I anticipate us making a few houses, and we will be building kind of upper class houses. We will have some mid-class and lower class type housing within the city, but today we're going to be starting with some of the upper class housing, the wealthier district, so to speak. So we're going to be starting over here. This is where we're going to be working today. A lot of these little areas that I had built out prior, we are going to be making some adjustments because my original plans have changed slightly. But we're going to be building this out. The majority of the buildings will consist of marble, spruce, hardened stone, some weathered cobblestone, bricks, and great wood, and also roof tiles from Cathedral, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. So we're going to be going with kind of a very standardized material choice and standardized building styles, and that's because in a city generally, I think especially like a medieval city, a lot of the buildings would use very similar materials, whatever's readily available, and so I'm trying to keep it pretty similar throughout, especially these buildings here. But most of the architecture that we're going to be going with will be kind of a Victorian style architecture, and kind of working with that a bit today, as you can see with the way that I raised that roof there and everything. Some of the roofs will be a bit different, but most of them will be kind of in the style or styles that kind of complement that, I think. I decided to start over here. I will say there's going to be some things that get added over time. Like once I start doing the interior of these buildings, I am going to add chimneys. I think to probably most, if not all of these buildings that we're building today, but we're not going to get that done today because I'm not going to start the interior just yet, and so I don't want to put in chimneys until I know exactly where in the house that it's going to line up to. And let's see. Some of the exterior stuff will evolve. One thing I am considering adding, which I'm not really considering, I've mentioned it before that we'll probably add it, and I'm going to mention it again that we will probably add it, but not just yet. But that is fairy lights. I don't want to add them right before a world upload, but probably after the world upload at some point, because we'll be working on more housing. I do want to get fairy lights added in. And some of the decoration that we do this episode, some of it I ended up doing off camera, just little bits here and there, while I was editing other footage and things like that, and that's because it actually got really hard, I discovered, to decorate like 9 buildings or whatever all at once, because they're kind of spread out, and I couldn't really consistently move the camera around, so I ended up just kind of panning through the alleyways for the decorating phase a bit, because when I'm kind of building a lot of buildings and decorating them all at once, a little bit harder to get the camera in all the right places, at the right time. So we did just kind of pan through, and some of the decorating I did after the speed building, just kind of cleaning things up, and it's very, very likely that I will probably, as time goes on, add a few more things here and there, spruce up maybe the roads a little bit more or something. We'll see. So, anyways, we're on to our third building. The first two are kind of mirrored buildings, and I decided to go with kind of a mirrored style just to kind of change things up. Maybe one of the buildings was built, and maybe, you know, maybe the city itself built the houses initially or something. Or maybe they decided to mirror these two buildings. I just kind of changed things up, and I like the style, to be honest. Originally I had thought about doing just a lot of the same building, and just kind of have it ran through, but then I decided I didn't really like that idea. We will probably do more of like similar style housing in places, like maybe for the middle class or something. Think like, you know, the suburbs, where a lot of those houses are kind of the same, even in modern day. So I'm kind of thinking something like that on a medieval scale. We'll see. Because I know that that was done in, you know, some medieval cities and stuff. In some cases, slight material changes, but I don't know. I don't know how different they'll be whenever we build them. But I was thinking something to that effect. So we kind of have like rows of roofs. Now we're working on our fourth building. That third building there does have kind of a cupola that kind of comes up to let out air. I didn't do that on all the buildings, but I decided that one, kind of change it up a little bit and add that at the top. So, and we do kind of have some overhangs that come out on that building and on a couple other buildings, if I recall correctly. So, but this building here that we're building, we actually have an elevation change midway up the building. So I did build the roof, so it kind of mirrors that elevation change slightly. And this roof was actually really interesting to build because of the fact that it does require, or we were using roof shingles from Cathedral, and they only come in a stair variant. They don't come in a full block variant. So I had to actually build them backwards to get the full block style for the Victorian architecture, but as you're about to see, it worked out just fine. So it wasn't really a big concern. But if you're building with those, just bear in mind that you can flip them around to get kind of that full block texture on the outside there. But all these houses were pretty straightforward to build, pretty simple, and not overly expensive. So I kind of wanted it in the world upload in case, you know, you want a quick, easy, you know, maybe day one type structure or something that looks, I guess, decent. Then this could maybe help spark some imagination or something like that. And it was something that I had really been wanting to get in place, because just adding a lot of buildings, you know, at once like this, adding a lot of just houses that don't really serve any kind of advanced purpose, you know, they're not going to be used for automating something or anything too crazy, but just kind of for housing what would be our villagers. Just felt like it would add a lot of life to the town and kind of spruce things up, spice it up a little bit for the world upload. So something I'd been wanting to get over to, and kind of just cram these. Of course, we're building more of a city than we normally do in series, bit by bit. So adding just a lot of houses and kind of cramming them in to some degree. Of course, with this being kind of a more wealthy district, I didn't want them to be too cramped. You know, kind of some larger roadways, and then we can add some greenery and things, some planter boxes, but still kind of having that cramped feel, especially compared to a lot of my other buildings where there's a lot more, or a lot of my other builds where there's a lot more space in between structures. With this one, I decided to go a bit more cramped. Not like New York City, where it's just like very small alleyways between buildings, but still have some alleyways and tighter spaces within this. So this building right here is actually, I would say, one of my favorites of what we're building today, and that's just because it kept getting bigger. I wanted a big building that kind of towered. It actually doesn't come out to be too much taller than the other buildings, but I did want a building that felt like it towered in places compared to some of the other buildings. So I had a bit of fun with this one. And building out the interior is going to be fun, I think, for this one as well. So you can see it's kind of got like a little, at the lower floor, at the bottom floor, it's made out of brick, and cobblestone, and we kind of got this little like side maybe shed or something like that, and then there's another elevation there, and then behind that yet another elevation that kind of comes up and towers out. I think it's actually about the same height as the one that we had built with the cathedral shingles, but it's really close. It's like either the same or a block or two different, but it feels like it towers, I think, more so than the one with the shingles there. And now we're building kind of more of a little sideways building here, just to kind of have it run around alongside where that tower is, or really is going to be, because that tower's not finished out yet. And kind of get that built. Now bear in mind this one will be on a higher elevation, so I went with 2 hardened bricks there. I will say we don't finish all these roadways and stuff today, because I haven't built all the buildings that are going to go over here, but we did put a serious dent into the amount of buildings that need to be built, and got a lot of stuff in place for the world upload. Now this building is another one of my favorites. It's not overly large. It's just kind of a cross shape here. Not exact. You can see that the back and the right hand side there actually are shorter than the other two. It's not meant to be completely symmetrical. And I just kind of built it to work it in next to the cathedral without blocking the stairways and blocking the views and stuff from that cathedral. So it has 4 different points that come out there with the Victorian style, and then it has kind of a central tower that comes up. And it's all roofed in, or all walled in, but it can kind of overlook the area, and it adds a bit of fun. And it was such a large space. Originally I had considered putting a fountain over here, but it felt like it would be really lopsided with all the buildings on one side and then that fountain and the cathedral behind it. And I decided, well, I keep saying cathedral. This isn't really our cathedral, but our storage building, you know. But it felt like it would be lopsided if I didn't put a building on the other side. And so I wanted something that kind of fit into the amount of space that we had and wasn't overly large, or something that would block out a lot of our view. So now we're on to starting to decorate a bit. We're going to be running a lot of trapdoors just to act as shutters. These are frame trapdoors, of course, from Block Craftery. And initially I put oak panels up, but I will say that we do change that, because the oak panels, I was trying to do something a little bit different to break away from the spruce wood, but they stuck out way too much. And realistically, I think the spruce wood ended up looking a lot better, personally. I have this habit of wanting to break away from a wood type if I'm using a lot of it, but at the same time, in a situation like this, it's really not a great idea to break away from that wood type, because if they're using this much spruce within the city, that's probably the wood type that they have a lot of, like, you know, ample access to. Decided to keep that wood type and kind of carry it through a bit more and kind of represent it throughout. And then I tried running some gargoyles from Cathedral. Originally I started with the kind of the dwarven gargoyles, but I decided I really didn't like those. They stood out way too much. And generally gargoyles are built out of kind of that same material as the material that they're on, you know, like if it's a stone texture, it's probably going to be a stone textured gargoyle. And so I decided to kind of match up with the hardened stone a bit more, and then I was adding kind of the I don't know what those things are called, to be honest. The, you know, like the, they're not steeples, but those things that stick up on older on older architecture, like medieval architecture. So running those up, I'm pretty sure I put the hardened stone on those two over there, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I came back and got that later. Oh yeah, there we go. I guess I got it later. I might have ran out of hardened stone. So, and then we're going to continue on decorating. Once again, I tried to get the camera on as much as I could, but of course I'm running around doing this to all the buildings, so I just try to catch what I can. And then we're running out some planter boxes, because of course this large space needs some greenery, needs something to kind of break up the large amount of gray and brown that we've got going on. So we're going to be adding a little odd and end details, just enough to kind of spruce things up and break away from, you know, kind of running into a stagnant color palette here. So And you can see the windows I did. I believe those are the Quark iron windows, if I recall. And then we're going to start kind of changing up the ground. You can see I broke a lot of it away because originally I had ran, I think that was disordered stone tiles, but I decided, that's not what I want to use. That was just kind of a placeholder. As I mentioned, there's a couple placeholders throughout the town, and they've really just been there to let me see as I build what kind of a color palette I want to go for with the streets. So, and since we are doing a large city, it's not going to be paths. And originally I had come up with an idea for running like a road that was, maybe like 4 or 5 blocks wide, had lighting and all that, and just ran it through, but it didn't feel right when I started messing around with it because as some of you may know if you've been around the channel, usually whenever I'm building something like this, like a large project, I will duplicate my world. There's an option whenever you go to load your world where you can duplicate it. I do that a lot, and then I come through and make if I'm going to do a big change, I make that change, see if I like it, and then if I don't, then I haven't really lost anything, Whereas if I was to do it in my main world, I might have to use a lot of resources or a lot of time to do that. So, but I decided I didn't really want the roads ran through. I wanted it to be, kind of concrete or stone or whatever I was going to run. I wanted to just be that throughout, and then just add some stuff to kind of break away from it being, to keep it from being like a stagnant texture. So we've got stone bricks, we've got cracked stone bricks, and we've got trodden stone bricks, and then we add a few other things, later on to kind of break it up. And we add some stones like pebbles, and we add some dirt and stuff like that to kind of make the road look a bit more realistic, a little bit more weathered and stuff like that. And then over here we've kind of got this nice little walkway, right, that would sit over the kind of the bay area, which we still have to build the dock and all that, and we will be starting that before too long. But I decided I wanted just some greenery that kind of ran along. It looks a lot better from a distance, and it kind of makes that little area a little bit more interesting when you're walking through it, I think. Now we're going to start adding some detail. Now normally if you're building like in vanilla, you wouldn't want the front of your buildings to be so flat. We would want the pillars to stick out by one, or maybe we would add the big planter boxes where you put grass and you stick trapdoors around that. You would want more of a 3D aspect to the front of your buildings, and I am actually doing that with Architecture Craft. Architecture Craft is great for that, just adding a lot of little bit of detail, a little bit of stuff that kind of pops out and makes the building feel a bit more 3D, because otherwise it would feel like a very 2D flat surface if we didn't do that. So I'm doing a lot of it with railings from Architecture Craft, also arches, doing some stairs, trying something a little bit different for the entrances so that they're not too flat, and kind of have these large entrances where the wood kind of sticks out a little bit and is kind of connected onto the stairs. We're using spruce for the stairs, and then I'm going around where kind of the foundation of the building is, and I'm doing that with loamy dirt, and just to kind of make it pop. It looks a little bit more weathered, a little bit more like I think a foundation would, and I think it serves well as a foundation for that purpose, because it does just have a really weathered look. And now we're going to go around and we're just going to be adding clutter and just small little details and things. Animania does have a horse cart, which works perfect for that. I didn't realize it at first, and I looked up and I was like, cart. And I was like, oh my gosh, Animania has a cart. I didn't even realize it. It does kind of flicker here, but you can actually hook it up with like a horse, but it works great for just decoration purposes. And then we're also adding rustic barrels, crates from Immersive Engineering, barrels from Immersive Engineering, just a lot of different little cluttery type things that would be kind of littered around this building. Maybe supplies coming in. Of course, this is right next to the dock, so anything that gets ordered, if they ordered fish or grain or something from the farms, then it would be shipped over to here. In that case, probably not by boat, but by wagon, because the farms are right outside the city. But other stuff may be coming in from the port, which we will be opening up before too long. Okay, so that's what we're up to at the moment. There's still a few things that I am planning on adding, but I've got to figure out exactly how I want to add those in, and I don't know when I'll get to it. But one thing I would like to add, I'm not sure if I want to do it with chisels and bits or with like framed pressure plates or something like that. Would work as well, but I would like to add maybe some fallen leaves around the trees and maybe little speckles of dirt and things. I don't want full blocks of dirt like coarse dirt, but I am planning on adding some speckles, maybe some moss, maybe exchange some of these for mossy stone, but we'll see. We'll see. Or just add some moss with chisels and bits, one or the other, but I've got to figure out exactly how I want to do that. And then I also need to figure out how I want to add lighting, because currently this isn't really lit up. I've got to figure out how I want to do that. I'm going to add chimneys out the top, and I may add some more vines in places, but probably not a whole lot. I don't want it to feel too overgrown. I've just added a few speckles of vines here and there. And then, of course, I've got to do interiors, because right now these are just big, empty buildings. But like I mentioned with some of the other buildings, we're going to do kind of a lot of interior work in bulk kind of segments, because that way I can craft out a bunch of like beds and paintings and things like that I've kind of got to use across the board. I can kind of bulk craft those out and do some stuff. But I did change up our little planters here, and I think it looks a bit better with a little bit more greenery that kind of runs down through there. So I ran peonies down through here in between these little trees that are growing, and then back in here kind of a little seating area kind of tucked away, like a little work area, and then back around over to here, oh, lag spike, kind of just some clutter, crates and things, and another horse cart over here. So, and then I did do some planter boxes that kind of ran around here with just kind of some shrubs, and taking a closer look at some of the buildings, because I know at the speed build it's kind of hard to show off everything, but you can see instead of bringing out like the pillars and having a full block out, because it tends to be a little bit heavy, I think I've just ran these fancy newels down for a lot of our kind of where the pillars would pop out, but instead ran those just so if you're coming along you'll notice them kind of sticking out on the edge of the building there. Also, like I said, I'm going to probably end up adding fairy lights right after the world upload, and we will add some fairy lights strung out. I messed around with doing immersive engineering and just running ropes across, but I'd rather have lights realistically. Kind of ran out across between these buildings, and I'm not sure if in this version fairy lights, if they emit light. I can't recall. I know in the newer versions they do, but I can't recall if they do in this version of 1.12. So we'll find out. And if so, that's going to cut. That's going to maybe do a little bit of our lighting for us, but we'll see. And you can see I have ran string just to keep the vines in check. All around those, I love like those views right there a lot. But I feel like it's added a lot more life to this area, and I did. This is cornice bottoms, and I did do some architecture or chisels and bits to kind of fill in the spots that it's basically corners, and then the inner corners here around these planter boxes, and ran out some spots, and then kind of cleaned up some of our flowers and stuff down through here, and also ran a hedge that kind of runs around the storage building deck area, which is going to get some more stuff on it as well, some odd and end decor type things. And of course some of these are closed up, and then of course some of them are open, just to kind of mix things up a little bit, and that way if you're inside the building, you know, it kind of looks like that, like the shutters are closed on some of these. So just to mix it up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting. Overall, I'm pretty happy with our buildings, though. Like, I think I think especially once we have some stuff above us, you know, ran across with fairy lights, I think it's going to look pretty good. And then once we add just a little bit more detail to the roads, because right now they are very gray, but we're going to add, like I said, some dirt. Just kind of speckled in. I don't want a lot of it because it's not meant to be like a really dirty road, but maybe just some dust, you know. And then I love these little tight alleyways here. I had a bit of fun with these. And I tried to run a lot of the fancy newels down because it just makes these areas kind of pop. I don't really like the string right there because it is a little bit noticeable, but it can't be helped. I mean, I guess I could do a chisel, like a bit, like a single bit, to block those vines, but I may trade it out. We'll see. And then just some crates and things spattered around throughout. Of course, this backside, I've got all the shutters closed because my idea is that maybe this house was built before this one, and of course they had the windows already put in. So most of the shutters that are facing into walls, I have those closed because, you know, you wouldn't have a nice view from that, to say the least. But and then this building here, I love this building just because it rises up really, really tall here, and was a bit of fun building this one, to be honest. But I don't have any of the planter boxes that are like the grass block with the trapdoors. I thought about doing some of those, but they're just so bulky, and I think I like these a bit more. You know, instead of hanging off the window, having these. I think hanging off the window would work maybe for a different architecture style, but I think I like the way that we have this set up, though. And right here, I did kind of break the fancy newels. The idea, of course, is that the shutter is actually kind of covering that, so you can't really see those. But just so that I could have both kind of overlapping there a little bit. And then we haven't done the upper road here. I did go ahead and place out the slabs, of course. The trodden bricks kind of get this like crushed in texture. There's a few chisel blocks that do that, and trodden bricks are one of those that do have that effect. So, and then I just added another planter box here, just kind of break up this road because we have this big road section. I'm probably going to do something similar over here. Maybe a planter box, but most likely I'm going to do a well that's going to sit right here where they can come to draw water from. Kind of in this area. Originally I was thinking about having the well kind of back in here, right in that little area, but I decided I think I would rather have the well here because it would be much more easily accessible. So I probably will set up a well here. But instead of doing like roads that are like cut into the ground and having grass on the side, I decided to just go ahead and have all this paved with stone. I think that's a little bit more accurate to how it would be, with it being, you know, in the middle of the city like this. Oh wow, the map. It looks like Armageddon. Also, I did consider putting gravel in, but I decided I didn't really want that. What we'll probably do, we have kind of these pebbles that break things up, and then we'll have that coarse dirt and stuff that's down inside the stone. And I think that's going to work out pretty well for us once that's done. And then over, let's see, over here, this little area, kind of a larger staircase here. I raised this building, of course, and what it looks like from the inside. These, I've got to add the little window panes and stuff. I've got to figure out exactly how I want to do those. Probably go with the same window panes, and these are the framed glass panes from Quark. Probably go with those on that building as well. What I'll probably do is put a block in right here, and then frame panes there, and then a block on top. I think it's probably what I'll do. And then over here, of course, this building, a little bit more different. We've kind of got a balcony that comes out on this one, and of course a different roof style here, and the way that this runs back. But overall, fairly easy build, just a lot of spruce for the most part. Spruce, of course, being one of the easier woods to build with. But I think once... one thing I am planning on doing is I am planning on putting another building back here for sure. And then, of course, there's going to be a building here, a building here, both of which, this one's going to be a very large kind of manor house. Fairly large, bigger probably than these buildings off over here. Of course, that's why I haven't ran the detail on this. And then this building here, of course, is going to be our storage, kind of our AE2 building. So we'll be starting that before too long, and then we'll tuck another building back in here, and then of course we'll run some more buildings off, probably one setting right in here or something, and then run them off, and then kind of the road kind of comes up and goes into the magical building. So that's where we're at the moment. I like the amount of life that it's added to this little segment here of the base. And of course, it's looking at this, it does feel a little bit lopsided now. But I think once we get some more buildings over on this side, and then we run out the dock and kind of do the dock area that kind of runs back through here, lots of crates and things, I think it's going to look pretty good, to be honest. I think it's going to look quite nice. And my idea is we are going to increase the size of this bay. That might be something that we do maybe after this world upload, like before the next world upload. We might try to get that done, and basically run this water out a bit further. Well, we can't really cut through there. We'll probably cut through here, I imagine, like a larger opening. Of course, we do have this little this little small grate over here, but this one, of course, is not large enough to allow large boats. We're going to have one that's big enough to allow large boats. But I've got to figure out, probably, honestly, run it right up through there and then out to the ocean would probably work. I would probably have to open up this a little bit, though. Kind of cut away some of this. But that would actually work pretty nicely. Run it out and then maybe off in this direction out to the ocean. So of course, we've got to finish building the walls out that come back and then wrap around behind this magic building and get this tower built and stuff. But I would really like to finish out this segment after the next world upload, like kind of building out all of this, because we're going to be working a lot within the magic building, the storage building, and doing some more detail work like this, I think, and getting the city kind of decorated out and built out. So, and hopefully build some of our large manor houses as well, which will be good. But anyways, with that, I know it's about wrapping up point for this episode. We got quite a bit done. It's quite a bit of speed building. And next episode, of course, we are going to be finishing out the tree area, doing the groundwork, plants, and the interior and stuff like that. We're going to be finishing all that out. And then, of course, the following episode will be the base tour and the world upload. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, as always, be sure and hit that like button and go ahead and subscribe if you're not already, to stay updated with when new videos come out. And I hope to see you guys next time. So until then, as always, do take care, stay safe. I'll see you guys then.